Or sorry, what was the skiff you had?
It's a 1994 Hobie flat skiff. There was only like 3 of them made.
Is this actually like through Hobie?
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah.
And is he going to refurbishing it to the original form, or?
All he's doing is he's repairing some like wear and tear from it being 25 years old. And then he's new polling platform, new center console. I'm getting a new Suzuki for it, twin power poles, iPilot on the front. So it's gonna be a badass little
it's a sweet little ride. You got like anything in it.
Gets really skinny, but it has like a super V hole in the front, but it flattens out, so it's like the driest boat I've ever been on. I've taken it like way offshore when I was younger. Yeah.
You had it for a while?
What was that?
You had it for a while?
I think my dad bought it from his boss when I was like 5. Like 20 years. Jeez. It was like I've caught every first on that boat. First bass, first fish on fly.
There's a little Guinea I have. I got a 15.4. Like I think it's not the classic, it's the high sider, I think.
Yeah.
It's a little like it's like a army green color.
Mm-hmm.
Like
it's like the OG one.
Yeah, and it's perfect. It was perfect for me at the time. I got it when I was like 12 years old. So I had it all throughout college.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing is like falling off the top of Jeeps. It's sunk offshore. My buddy Patrick sunk it offshore. We had one day where we got water into the carburetor, and so my buddy Pat's kind of, I guess our buddy Pat, he's our neighbor from back home, kind of raised fishing with him. He just has like this weird way about him, like he just figures things out unlike any other for some reason, and he decided to take the engine off the Ginu on this day. Basically, we got towed over by Charles Hertel, who was the president of the UCF Fishing Club, and now he's a guy down in the Keys, but he towed us to like the east end of the lagoon because the engine wasn't working. This is on like the Mosquito Lagoon, like we call it the Lagoon Day. This is when all like the UCF real night kids like went out and fished the lagoon. And so halfway through the day, I was like, screw this, it's blowing. Like I want to get the engine working. So he takes the engine off, flips it upside down, and he's just like shaking, getting the water out. And he flips it back over and starts pumping some gas into it and pulls it a few times and gets it started right up. And it was bizarre. He's like, I know there's water on the carburetor, we can just get it out, it'll start.
You need to rough it up a little bit.
The water out of the carburetor.
I had a Snapchat of him, he's sitting there with this little 8 horsepower
Making
engine.
fun of him the whole time, and all of a sudden
he puts it on, and I'm like, alright.
That's one of the moments that you like a dog, you're like, huh. You just let us like baffled.
Yeah, like how did that work?
That story sums up Patrick.
Yeah, and like I would have never thought to do that. Like, who would like flip your engine upside down to get the water out? I figured that would mess everything up.
You're thinking of like all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah, he's just thinking of the one thing that needs to go right. Just get the water out and it'll work. So he made it happen. But
all right, Ty. So who do we have with us today?
I guess we'll do an intro first.
Why don't you do an intro?
What is up, everybody? You are listening to the Florida Fishing Show and Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Tim Summer, and we have 2 special guests this week from 7 Seas Media. We have Phil Hughes and Brandon Chestnut. Chestnut, right?
Yes.
All right, I mess up last names every single time I do this.
I mess up.
He goes by Chestnut 95% of the time.
Chestnut.
Yeah. I've called all of our interns different names and what they actually are every single time I speak with them. So. Oh man!
Do you know his name in there?
I did it live. Sam. There's Sam, Josh.
All right, you got both names.
Sam and
Josh.
Josh.
The 2 that you don't know, so that's good. That's Josh.
Josh.
That's Josh. He doesn't even know who's servicing our reels right now in that room.
That's name tags all the time.
He's gonna cry a little
Yeah,
bit.
don't worry, Josh. I got you.
Eventually, I'll get it. I mean, Robbie, I know. Never gonna forget Robbie's name.
We're running on the fly today. We got the guys from 7 Seas Media to stop on by. We're going to be doing some work with them with Florida Fishing Products. So we're excited for that. But I basically just last minute told them that we're going to shoot a podcast today, and so here they are.
Yeah, I do want to warn people. Like, if you come in, there's a good chance we're going to spring a podcast on you. Ty texted me this morning. He goes, "Hey, I got a podcast in line today." And I was like, "Oh yeah, who's doing it?" He goes, 7 Seas Media. But they don't know yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, we didn't know.
I texted him, I was like, I'm doing a podcast
We
today.
did that with,
like, I've never done one before.
Our last podcast was like that too.
Who's
Justin
the last
Ritchie.
one? Oh yeah, he just showed up.
He's a good one to
he
do,
came in,
too.
yeah.
He's charismatic. I knew he'd be great at it. He's got an acting degree, so that worked out. So if you haven't checked out that podcast, definitely check out our Florida Fishing Show and Podcast on YouTube. Or where else can they find it, Tim?
YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify.
Cool.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of platforms. Pretty much any.
Give it a
platform you can
5-star review too. I looked at our Apple podcast and someone gave us a 3-star.
Whoa, that's
Yeah.
weak.
So we were at 4.5 out of 5. I'm
That
like,
means they put some thought
just
into
haters.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
They
like,
went-
if
they
it
went
was
out
a
of the
1,
way.
they were just.
Well, it's one thing if they give us a 3 and write why they give it a 3. They just gave us a 3 and didn't even bother to tell us why. So we don't know where we need to get better.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
That's the worst type of reviewer. They don't even get any
Yeah.
real feedback.
Just
So-
leaving on it.
That reminds me, I had a guy when we first started Florida Fishing Products. We did like a pre-order before we ever got our ospreys in. That kind of helped pay for our first order reels. And that's how we funded like all of our orders. We do pre-orders using our prototypes. We put them in people's hands. I mean, we had two prototypes to start, and we sold over 200 pre-orders with that, and that paid for our first order of reels. But this one guy had pre-ordered a reel. Never touched an osprey. He was living in Texas at the time. He came back and forth from Florida and Texas, and I knew him well. And he gave us a 4-star review before he'd ever even used the reel. And the reason being is like, well, I really like the reel. It looks really good. I haven't touched it yet. I haven't used it, so that's why I'm giving it 4 stars. I'm like, what? Like that is the worst review ever.
Apparently people in
So
Texas
thank you,
are nice.
Gary. I appreciate that. I'm not going to forget that. But anyway, so we're here today with the guys from Seven Seas Media, and obviously we sprung this on you guys, so just go with the flow, I guess. But I don't really know too much about you guys, so this is perfect for me and for our audience. But why don't you guys kind of start with like where you're from, how you got into fishing, and then how you came into the fishing industry, and then I guess maybe segue into how you started Seven Seas Media.
Do you want to take the lead?
No, you got it.
Alright, so I was born and raised in Fort Lauderdale, and my family's actually from the Bahamas. So I've pretty much been on the water my whole life, through and through, and I always had like, the passion for the outdoors, fishing, paddleboarding, anything boating related. And then throughout high school and into college, I've been doing commercial photography and videography for about 10 years, give or take now.
Awesome.
And then I kind of decided to take the shift going into school for marketing.
Mhm.
And after that, after college, I was like, there's no way I want to sit in the office all day. So
Right.
kind of segue into a little brainchild of 7 Cs of let's target companies that not strictly in the outdoors, but with the focus in what we know. And that way we can better serve y'all. It's a market for companies that we know through and through.
Right. So when you started commercial photography, were you working with fishing companies, or where did you start?
I actually started in a magazine, so I did a lot of editorial content for Mud Life magazines.
Gotcha.
And so I got published my first time nationally when I was 15. So from like 15 to 18, it kind of kicked off the commercial photography side of my experience, and kind of just like became like passionate about it and just like really dove in. I was like, this is what I can see myself doing.
Did it kind of start off as like organic, or sorry, did they just like just reach out to you randomly, or were you like set out like I'm gonna write an article, take some cool photos, and send it into Mud Life? Or how did that work?
In South Florida, the whole country culture down there, everyone's pretty closely connected, and like my brother knew the owner just from rodeos and that type of stuff.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they pretty much gave me the one chance to do a photo shoot of like $100,000 buggy, and then it was pretty much game over after that. Of like, I just kept on pursuing like doing different photo shoots of like new mud trucks coming out.
Would you say that's when you found out that you have a passion for commercial photography or photography in general, or when would you say you decided, hey, I want to try and do this for a living?
I would say, and it's not even much photography. I think that's when I decided I loved like the whole aspect of marketing overall,
Marketing as a whole.
and using marketing as like my medium to like tell that story
Right.
of whether like any brand, any company, or even myself. We all have our stories we're trying to tell,
Right.
and I was just lucky that I was able to use photos and videos as that core to like tell that story.
For sure. I was in multi-level marketing when I was, I think, 18. When I started, I worked for Vima. You guys ever heard of Vima?
Yeah.
And so I remember they
world domination.
I was all in.
Make fun
I
of
got,
them.
I got the Mercedes Benz. I went all in with it, and I did well. I did well.
Oh,
But,
man.
We've had a few friends that were pretty into that as well.
Oh, yeah.
so I mean, it was interesting, but the cool thing about it was the culture that it created. It was a bunch of young people that had like a similar goal. We all just wanted to be successful at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Vimo wasn't the vehicle for that, we found out. As many people had noted along the way too, but we found out that wasn't working out for us. But what we did learn is he who tells his story the most wins. And that's the one thing that we've kind of stuck with. You know, we've began our story, and it continues to change and refine it over time. But that's the goal, is to tell your story the most. And it seems like you guys are doing an awesome job with that through Seven Seas Media. Speaking of stories, so we know your background a little bit, which I remember on the phone you told me you've never caught a bonefish, right? And you were you born in the Bahamas, or just
So
kind of
I
raised
was
there?
born here, and almost all my family's born over there.
Okay.
And ironically, till I came to college, I've never even introed fish, because growing up, all we did was dive for lobster and conch.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really the need of doing a lot of the sport fishing. We just did.
Why I grab a rod, I can grab it with my hands.
Yeah, we just did the fishing that put food on the table.
That's cool.
So once I met Phil, he's actually taught me a lot about inshore fishing over the past 2 years.
Awesome.
Kind of segued me away from everything I knew.
Gotcha. And so what about you, Phil? You're born and raised in Florida as well, right?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Fort Lauderdale as well. I was lucky enough. My dad was a commercial fisherman and a professional captain in South Beach, Miami, pretty much my whole life. And so since I was born, he had me on that boat. Then I was able to walk. I would actually go fishing with him. And then as I got a little bit older, I was a mate on that boat. Starting when I was like 6, I would run around and fill bait buckets and re-rig rods, or just do whatever I could. I just wanted to be out on the boat with my dad, even if it was rough, and hung out with some. It's gonna be real hard for me not to curse on this. This is why I can never be mic'd up on shoots, because I'm always saying something stupid. But yeah, I mean, I was extremely lucky to have a dad that was in fishing. I could have definitely not liked it.
Right.
But and he was an offshore captain. To his fault, I was also left alone at home a lot, so I'd watch a lot of TV. And I think it was Flip Pallet. I saw him on TV, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I wanna fly fish." My dad being like one bad mofo offshore guy, like one of the top captains, caught daytime swords 20 years ago before anybody knew how to do it. He was like, "Why do I have to have a 6-year-old that wants to fly fish? I catch sailfish and marlin and all kinds of stuff." So he's like, "Okay, I'll buy a little." His boss happened to have a little skiff, and he bought the skiff, and he used to take me to Holiday Park in the Everglades. They put that skiff in the water, and I used to just sit on the bow, and he'd sit there with a little trolling motor, and I would snag every lily pad I could, learn how to fly fish. He didn't know how to fly fish, so he didn't know.
You had to figure it out.
He was just like, just whip it out there and try to catch something.
Figure it out.
Just figure it out. So I ended up, getting really good with a fly rod when I was like 6, and I started tying my own flies when I was that little, and I used probably like $150 setup from Bass Pro till I was, I want to say like 18, 19, 20. And then I got like a real fly fishing setup, and I realized.
So what did you move to? You went from the Bass Pro setup. Like, what was your first real?
My first
fly
reel was a cheeky 8 to 10 weight on a Sage Motive.
Cool.
10 weight. And I think because I used such a crap Bass Pro Shop setup for my whole life, I never realized it was a crap setup. I just knew I had to whip it out there 80 feet, whatever. So then I got like a real reel with like $100 line, and like I never knew what a tapered tip it was. I never knew any of that. So I grabbed one of those, and I was like casting to the backing, and I'm like, "Oh wow, this is pretty neat. Like, this feels real nice." So, and it's kind of funny because I'm not a photographer. I always like to take pictures. Even back in the day, I have like a drawer full of little digital cameras my parents used to get me.
Yeah.
But I'm so like obsessive. Like even when I was a little kid, wanted to be the best at fly fishing, had nobody to teach me, so I would figure it out. When me and Chestnut went to college together, we were good friends.
Where'd you guys go to college?
UCF.
UCF.
Went to University
Oh,
of
man.
Central Florida.
When did you guys graduate?
2016, I graduated.
16 as well.
I was 16 as well.
Yeah.
That's funny. We never really crossed paths while we were at UCF. Granted, it's got 65,000 students,
Yeah.
so it's not uncommon, but
No.
still, like people like in the fishing industry that like to fish. Well, you're in the outdoor industry. You were in the fishing industry. We
Yeah.
never really had crossed paths. I knew you through Justin Ritchie, and that's the
Yeah.
only way I knew who you even were.
Yeah.
I think I said what's up to you one time in the hallway, and I didn't even know who you were at the time.
Yeah.
You're probably, who is this kid?
Who's this guy with the emo? Who's this guy trying to sell me something?
Yeah, right. That's probably where it was really going.
But
Oh, man.
do pictures and figure
Right.
it out and edit and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
he was like, okay, take my Mark III. We're gonna buy you like
Learn
a
that.
cheap
Yeah.
fixed lens,
Yep.
and that's what you're gonna use till you get really good at it. And I mean, I think I used that, just that one 50 millimeter like non-L lens, $300 lens with a hand-me-down Mark III for a while. And some of like my favorite pictures were, even now, like I still use that camera and I'm like, wow, that's a badass picture.
Right.
And then we have like 2 Mark IVs with like,
Right, but for
like
some
a
reason
crazy,
you have
but it's just like that one
yeah.
camera because it was like my it's like having like my first bow that I just bought
Right.
and I killed my first
Sentimental
deer with.
value on it, you know?
Yeah, it's like you figured out the science behind it, and it's like you learned with it, you know.
I feel like that's just your whole mentality as a whole. Like, I'm not gonna go like put a facade on, put this face on, and show people like, look at all these cool things I'm doing. I'm gonna actually figure out how to do it as good as I possibly can, and let that work speak for itself.
I mean, even if we do start posting, it's gonna be like asinine. Like half the stuff I do is probably
Right.
gonna have like a really crude caption or no caption.
And it's actually kind of funny, like that's why we work well off of each other, cause like I was able to like help teach him the photography aspect and like guide him through that whole process. Now on his end, I've bass fished my whole life, never like intro fished at
right.
all.
Yeah.
So he's seen my first redfish, my first trout.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
he's been part of all those moments of like tapping into his knowledge of. There's
Mhm.
been a lot of patience on both of our ends of us
Right,
doing
right.
stuff, but
It's good though. You complement each other at the end of the day, and that's something that Tim and I have done well, and that's why it works out with us.
Yeah.
You know, he really he was born and raised saltwater fishing,
Yeah.
but not to the extent that I was born and raised saltwater fishing. I was a nut about it. I went every single day that I could when I
You're a
was in
student
UCF.
of it, it's scientific.
Exactly, and Tim spent more time working on branding and marketing and new web development and web design really well. I had no clue about that.
Yeah.
I knew how to take some decent photos, and I knew a lot about fishing. I had a lot of connection to the fishing industry, but I didn't know how to make a brand.
That was like
So-
the first paddleboard shoot we did. I'll never forget because he lived on Lake Georgia, right near UCF.
Right.
Beautiful.
This
Pulled up.
is the owner of Live?
No,
or-
this is
Oh,
he was renting a
gotcha.
house with a bunch of
Gotcha.
our buddies, and he was like, "Dude, the lake's beautiful. Just bring board by." I don't even remember what we were trying. I was trying to get like vineyard vine shots on the boards and like
Gotcha.
whatever, just cross market.
Trying to put some of that together.
And he was like, and I went back there and I was like, "This is a beautiful lake. Like, is there any bass?" He's like, "There's no bass." I'm like, "Come on, man. Like, there's gotta be bass back here." And he's like, "There's no bass." And I think like I had like a fly rod and like just like a little white deceiver. And I think on the first cast I caught like a little bass, and he was like mind blown. And I was like, "Listen, you don't know that much about fishing. I'm gonna help you cheat a little bit and figure it out on this lake. Go get some like oats, like a 50-pound bag of oats. And every day, go behind your house and throw out a couple handfuls of oats." And I was like, "The brim are gonna come." And when the brim started coming, the big, like I know there's 10-pound bass in there.
Right.
This was back then, and I actually did catch like an 11-pound stud out of that lake.
Seriously.
So so every day he would go out there with oats, and then I bought him like a little 4-foot cast net. Taught him how to throw the cast net. I was like, catch those brim once they start coming, and just throw them out under a cork and start catching bass. And he would just send me pictures like 6-pound bass. He didn't even know how big they were.
Right.
He was like, "Oh, look at this 3-pound
Is this
bass,"
a
and I'm
nice
like, "But you know how people like they exaggerate. Like if you've
Right.
caught an 11-pound bass, a 12-pound bass, you know how to like gauge their size. You know what I mean?"
Right.
He didn't know shit. So like the first bass he caught was like
A stud.
5-pound
Look at
stud.
this little bass I
yeah,
got.
like 5-pound stud. He was like, "Look at this like 2-pounder." I'm like, I didn't even want to say anything. I'm like, "That's like a 23-inch bass."
You're like, dude, that's
It's like a 5-pounder, 6-pounder. Like,
And I had a time in my life, like, living on the lake for 2 years, like, literally every morning and night, I went out, whether it was, like, cat food, oats, like, I had my little pet bass.
I
just,
created
like,
a monster. It was every day. It was every day. But he kind of like, and then he got, the whole inshore thing was a different animal because I was kind of a dick about it. I would just be like, I knew, we would go to Sebastian on that blue boat that I'm getting redone.
Right.
And I have this like one mangrove shoreline that we call it like the mofo shoreline because it just like, I'll take my buddies there to like get their ass kicked by a snook and like not even say anything.
Right.
So I have like a 4,000 set up with like 80-pound test, and he doesn't know anything. And I just finger mullet through the nose with a circle hook. I say, throw it up in that little corner right there. Throws it up, hangs it up in the mangroves. I'm like, it's okay. Like, just rip it out. I'll re-rig it. It's fine. Throws it up in the mangroves again. As soon as it hits the water, whack! And it's 20 feet up in the mangroves. And he's just sitting there like, I don't know what to do, man. And he's just like looking at me as he's getting his ass kicked. I'm like, you got to put the rod tip in the water and wind against them, and they'll come out, and that's it. And it was just, it was funny. Like, he learned how to inshore fish by getting his ass kicked.
Right.
And it's funny,
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I probably almost sometimes like twice a week now, like going out to the lagoon, like always out there. And then look, it was like trial by fire of like getting put in like the worst situation of like trying to toss a live bait underneath mangrove, not knowing.
He didn't even know what we were fishing for.
Yeah.
It was just like mullet hit the water, and I knew the fish were there. It was like the perfect day, perfect tide, the moon was right. I was like, as soon as like, the freaking thing hits the water, it's just gonna get smoked by like a 34, 35 inch snook. And it
It's a
did.
good learning experience.
And it was like even like yesterday, I caught a 23-inch trout, and I was like, oh, like that's a cool fish. And my buddy that I was fishing with, he was like, wow.
It was
he
a
was-
thick fit.
Right,
Like, he
right.
sent me the video. The freaking, it was a tank. It was 23 inches. I thought it was like a 30
Right.
because it was just so wide. It was like this thing. It was just like it was just stupid.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh,
He
this
couldn't
is
even
cool.
wrap his hand around it. It was like a freaking
Brain's
shogi
just like,
23.
little trout.
Yeah, it
Trout's
was the same thing. I was like,
Yeah.
how long was that trout, dude? In the release video, I shit you not, it was like a 5-inch wide shouldered trout.
It's like a 7-pound, 23-inch trout.
It was a big trout. It was a big.
Hey, when I was fighting, I was like, oh, I gotta go redfish. This is cool. And they just touched the boat, and my buddy starts freaking out. I'm like, oh, I guess this is like a decent fish.
It wasn't long. It was just thick. It was the girth that was impressive, not so much the length.
That's exciting, though, 'cause that's one of my favorite things is to relive the experience
Yeah.
of catching a fish for the first time through someone else, like through their
That's the
own
thing
eyes.
too. Like we've done it all, but like it's cool. Like taking a kid or taking somebody that hasn't done it before. Like when we started working together, it's kind of like I didn't fall out of love with fishing. I was just going through the motions. So then like experiencing like his first redfish, his first trout, his first big bass, his first snook, and all that. It was like we got the ball rolling, and I was like, okay, we can do something here. You know what I mean? Like you have the photography knowledge and the video knowledge and all the technical background. I can figure out almost any fishery that we need to figure out.
Right.
If you give me like
And
a
that's
couple days.
and that's
like,
another
yeah.
that's another thing to think about when as far as like you guys creating content. You don't need to go hire a guide to get on fish and all
No.
that. You guys could just go out. You can get on the fish and make the content you need.
I
and that-
love going with guides though because every guide has a story.
Of course,
They love
yeah.
like Steve Bear.
for sure.
Awesome. Like if
For
Steve
sure.
called me right now and said, "Hey Phil, the weather's right. You should come tomorrow." I'll jump in my truck right now and do whatever I have to go do to fish with Steve. You know,
Yeah, Steve's a
Right.
they're all
He's a good
characters
guy,
and they all
yeah.
have cool backgrounds and they all have something that
Definitely.
like led them to be.
Right.
You got to be a little off to be a fishing guide. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're not like all mentally there. Just like to do what we do. Like we're not like the most sane. Like
right.
Chestnut can attest. I'm a nightmare most of the time. I don't think I could probably work with like not like I don't even mess with like 98% of my family most of the time. You know, never really cared what kind of fishing I was doing. I just knew I loved it. You know, I would go fish lakes with my buddies when I was a little kid. Didn't care. It was like the same thing as being offshore. Didn't really matter. So that's been, my, even in college, I never went on a spring break or like any fraternity event or anything like that, because any opportunity I had to get off, I was in the Keys with my dad or I was fishing out of Miami,
There could be a party going on in the house, he's in the room rigging up for the next morning.
Oh,
I remember
Like that.
Halloween night, I think I went fishing with Justin. No, that wasn't with Justin. Halloween night, they had a big party in the fraternity in our house or whatever the hell you want to call it. And I
Frat castle.
yeah, so like 1 a.m. I've had a couple adult beverages. I was like, I go outside. I'm like, it's kind of nice out. There's no wind. So I whip my phone out. I check the weather. And I'm like, oh man, it's like west southwest wind. I have a
calm.
I know, yeah, it's gonna be pretty calm. I have my paddle board downstairs. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna drink a bunch of water. I'm gonna see what I have. I'm gonna throw the board. I'm not even gonna go to sleep. I'm just gonna throw the board in the back of the truck and just
take
go. Yeah, just take off. So I ended up going down there and I caught. I pulled up. There was alligator. It was like the southwest corner of the Mosquito, like south of the Whale Tail, and there's that whole bend there with all the alligators.
Lab or
Yeah, where all the alligators and crap hang out. I don't know why. I never really caught that many fish there, but I just loved it
Right,
for
right.
whatever reason. And I remember I caught like a 34-inch red on like my first cast on a Z-Man, and then I caught a slot red.
Is this like first thing in the morning? Or is
It was like 8:30 in the morning. I was done.
Gotcha.
I got to the ramp so early because I didn't even pay attention when the sun. I just left.
Right, just took your whatever.
I just took off. So then I had like an hour to kill. But it was like first cast, like 34-inch red. Second cast or third cast was a slot. It was like 8:30. I was like, well, okay.
It's been a good morning.
Yeah. So I threw that guy in the cooler, left, and yeah. But that, I mean, kind of got off on a tangent.
Yeah. So how did you get? You guys were friends in college.
Yeah, we were.
And then, so when did you guys decide? Hey, let's do. How did Seven Seas Media come to be?
Well,
I heard you guys talking. It was kind of a mistake.
yeah,
earlier?
it was definitely like an accident. I had a bunch of internships in college through
Okay.
Costa, Yeti, AFCO, Guy Harvey. Kind of just hustled my way through that, and then I ended up having a couple opportunities with some TV shows in the Keys, managing all of their marketing. And then once I graduated, I was hired by a paddleboard company in Clearwater called Live Water Sports.
Mhm.
Super small company at the time. This was like 2 years ago, maybe, right?
Yeah.
2 years ago. Always stayed in contact with Chestnut, and the owner of the company basically said, like, we can pay you a salary 6 months from now.
Mhm.
So I basically was the marketing director for 6 or 7 months without pay, just to
Dang, that's
prove
cool.
myself. And then
Right,
he
right.
said, okay, now we can pay you. You really don't have a budget for anything. So I was like,
Just got to do it all on your own.
I was like, crap, okay, how do I do this? So I would hit up Chestnut every once in a while and be like, hey, can you help me with like a shoot? I gotta catch a bass. I just gotta get something. He's a badass photographer, and I was lucky enough to have him kind of help me out. And after he helped me out like the 4th time, I gave him a paddleboard. And
Nice.
so
I'm sure you figured like giving them a paddleboard, you'd be getting something back in return. You know, getting some
Yeah.
photos.
Yeah,
like,
I've definitely put the
He-
board
he
through the
definitely-
ringers
yeah.
of a lot of different environments and situations over the years.
yeah, so once we started doing that, I wanted to get more serious with the paddleboard stuff. Still really didn't have a budget. It was still technically a startup. So I said, I went to the owner of the company. I said, listen, I have a ton of contacts in the outdoor industry. I used to do pictures and consulting for like Vineyard Vines and Guy Harvey and all this stuff. Let me, we have no equipment. I don't have money to buy the equipment that we need.
Right, right.
Let me try to reach out to a couple companies and see like if we can cross promote it,
Mhm.
do some cool trips on the boards, and while we're doing this cool stuff on the boards, we'll take some pictures for blah 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 blah, just to get some kind of money.
Right,
Right. So then I really started, I would pay Chestnut a little bit of whatever I could, and we would just get whatever clients or affiliates we could. And then we started getting more gear and more gear and more gear, and then before we knew it, we had, I don't even know, like
A lot of
an
money.
obnoxious amount of money and professional grade. We have every
Yeah.
Canon lens they make. We have multiple bodies of
So you shoot with cans.
Yep, I've been.
That was one of our. We were wondering.
Yeah.
We were looking at the
See, I thought you
photos.
shot with Nikon.
I was thinking you guys were Nikon guys.
To some of our photos.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
been shooting
That's
Canon
all.
since, like, my original Canon was a D10. This is before all the. It
Right.
was one of the first digital cameras.
Before the Rebel.
Yeah, before those, and I've pretty much worked my way up through all the different models now. I've had the Mark 3s and Mark 4s for the past few years, and
Nice.
we definitely put them through the ringer
Yeah,
of.
he cringes when I take pictures on the boat.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so funny enough though, his cameras are always the ones we gotta take in to get cleaned, or the sensor's scratched, and mine are always
And, like,
fine.
we'll be like we'll be paddleboarding like in the lagoon. I'd have like the Mark 4 just like on the deck of the board, just out, just
That's why you got to get
With
that
like a 70 to 200,
that
just like-
warranty, right?
chilling.
That's right. You gotta get the extended warranty
So-
or whatever coverage you can get.
So yeah, I mean, it basically started as like, we need money for the paddleboard company to feed the marketing. Let's see what we can do. And I think we were so low key about it, and we didn't. We just said, hey, he's lived outdoors his whole life. He loves it. I paddleboard fish. I fish offshore, inshore, bass fish, spearfish, I lobster. I pull stone crab traps. I do
Right.
everything because I'm so obsessive compulsive. I just want to be good at everything and be a student of everything.
Right, right.
So I said, we are authentic Floridians. We will get you authentic Floridian lifestyle content. It's what we do. I said, whether we were doing this for a living or not, we'd be doing it anyways. That's how you know we're
Right.
hardcore.
Committed, yeah,
and
So after we did it for like a couple months, started getting traffic, and then some of our people that we were working for started talking to other, companies, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. And then we were like, well, we kind of, we have an opportunity to start a real, and media companies and people that do this are a dime a dozen nowadays, and there's so many,
Exactly.
influencers on Instagram that, but an iPhone 10 takes an amazing picture nowadays.
Right.
Anybody with a cell phone can take a decent product shot,
But
to
you
get
can't all
by.
tell that story, man.
No, and that's the thing.
And
Like,
that's kind of going back to the marketing aspect here of, I worked at agencies all throughout college,
Mm-hmm.
and my biggest pet peeve with the agencies was you had people marketing for a product that didn't live the lifestyle,
Right. Didn't understand. They didn't understand
And
what they were really
anyone-
marketing.
especially within the fishing outdoors industry. Anyone that fishes, they know immediately if someone's blowing smoke or not.
you can hand somebody a rod, and as soon as they touch it, like, oh, okay, they know what they're doing, or they don't.
All it takes is one cast, and I
Mhm.
know immediately what type of fisherman I'm fishing
Exactly.
with.
So we kind of wanted to make our brain chart of taking a production side of it, of marketing knowledge, and then the lifelong knowledge of just being an outdoorsman,
Right.
and
also
put it all
the
together into an
connections you
agency.
guys built along the way with the internships that you had and internships
Yeah.
that you had, That's pretty unique.
Well, he came from an advertising agency background. I came from an apparel
Mm-hmm.
and just like hard product / TV show background. And I knew how the TV shows would work. I knew how they negotiated and got clients. And part of it was content driven.
Yep.
They would say, yeah, we're going to do this TV show and you're going to get a little bit of exposure. And then they would dangle this little like content thing over the sponsor's head, which they didn't really pay for. They were paying for the exposure.
Right,
But because they were always starving for product shots or product videos or well-produced stuff, that would be a big part of it. So coming from the TV show part, I said, ad agencies basically are just middlemen for the most part. Like if they need a particular shot done, they know they have a photographer in their back pocket they can contract this out. If they need some graphic design stuff done, they have a graphic
They
designer.
got some-
Nobody at the ad agency really like.
They're not actually.
Right.
Yeah, they're not really like
They're,
doing it.
they're
you know?
account men.
And a
So-
lot of it's running around like meetings that the meetings don't really get much done. Like
Yeah.
for us, we're all about like having a goal and like achieving the goal.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
everything that we do, we're touching. We're not really like
Mhm.
contracting stuff out. And if we
Right.
don't know how to do it, we will figure it out. Like I woke up one day in September and I was like, I'm gonna start hunting. I've never even shot a gun before.
I've
been
been seeing a
fishing
lot
my whole-
more hunting photos
Yeah.
the last few
Well, I
months.
went through some personal stuff, which led to me wanting to kill furry animals, but take my aggression out. But I became so obsessed with it. I was like, I think we've been doing stuff for Realtree
Right.
on the fishing side. They just launched in July. So in the back of my head, I was like, I've never done this hunting thing, but you never know. I might be good at it, and it would be either I have like a new hobby or we have a new business structure that we can figure out.
Right.
So
There's definitely overlap between the hunters and the fishermen.
yeah,
A lot of
there
them-
definitely is, and I think
I would say.
because we've taken such a boutique-y type, we'll help a startup company that has no money.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or but we're also professional enough to work with these like multi-$100 million companies.
Yeah, we've seen your guys' photos. I was looking through some of them on your website earlier today, and I mean, they're impressive. They look good.
Yeah.
It's definitely high grade stuff. I mean,
The funniest part is like we're so low key about it.
Yeah.
Like that's not like the crap that we put even on our Instagram page. Half of it's just like a joke.
Right.
Right.
They're just like extra shots that we
Yeah,
think
yeah,
are
yeah.
funny or.
Yeah, I would
or
definitely
whatever.
say like my Instagram, out of like probably 1/100th of like the stuff we actually do
Right.
is like seen on like our personal social media, because like
Mhm.
for us we'd rather like our brand, our clients speak for themselves.
of
Like,
course, yeah.
we don't need the fame and notoriety of it.
That's a hard thing nowadays is when you have a content creator, they want the photos and the video, the content that they create for themselves, but also for the brand, and that's difficult.
Half the stuff we do, like I wear a buff most
Yeah.
of the time. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be
Right.
in it. I
The
don't
face
care.
of 20 different companies.
No, like even when we graduated in 2016, I think I was in a rough. I literally like couch surfed working for free for the paddleboard company. I lived out of my truck for like 6 months. I got to a place where I was like, I realized I was doing the Instagram thing for the validation and the notoriety more than like I was like falling out of love with fishing.
Right.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
when you're working so hard for free too, it's hard when you're not able to pay the bills.
It wasn't for free. It was a gamble. It was
Right.
the owner of the company was taking a risk on a 21-year-old kid
Right,
that just
right.
Right.
you're gonna make a 22-year-old kid the CMO of a
Yeah.
relatively large company, he's got to prove
Right.
himself. So I understood that, and I was
Definitely.
like, I'm going to kick ass. I'm going to do whatever I have to do.
Well, I think the couch surfing aspect, not being able to have like a solid location, just being on the road all the
It
time,
sucks.
going through all the work, it's tough, man. It's a grind.
It was awful. Like
That's a grind.
like even in college, like I worked out twice a day.
Mhm.
I made every meal I had ahead of time. I had a schedule, and like
You don't
when
do that on the road. You don't have that
my,
ability.
my body and my mental health like absolutely went to shit. You know, I was doing all the stuff that's required to like become successful. And you know, and Chestnut has his like way fair share of sacrifices and stuff. But and I mean it's funny, like you go to ICAST and in 2016, I think it was like January 1st, 2017, I posted like a stupid New Year's post like everybody does, you know, saying it's New Year's, whatever.
Yeah, I saw one the other day.
And
It was like a New Year 2013 highlight. It was this like 40-inch red. I caught a mosquito lagoon.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I woke up like the next day, just like I woke up randomly and said I was like, this is so dumb. Like, why? I have nothing to prove. I don't care. Who knows? Like, everybody catches a snook, a tarpon, a redfish. I'm like, I'm not cool. I'm not a guide. I'm nothing yet. You know what I mean? I'm gonna take like a month away from Instagram.
Right.
A month went by and I was like, I really miss it. Like, anybody got any of those posts? Like, it was hard.
Get some content.
Yeah, everybody needs some content.
I went end of last year. I think I went like 4 or 5 months without being on. I went a
Yeah.
long time.
So
and Ty's
I
like,
went-
"Oh, did you see the latest post?" I was like, "Dude,
He didn't even
I
know
had-
what was going on with their company. social
I was
media-wise.
just
No.
trusting
Not
that
working.
Ty was taking care of that
Yeah.
end of things, and but it was like it was good,
Yeah.
really good to take it, basically fast from social media, and it was
Yeah.
like,
That was like
It's
January 1st,
really good.
2017. A month went by. I was kind of sucks, but I kind of like it.
yeah,
I'm fishing and I don't care about who knows. And then
Right.
6 months went by and I was like, this is real nice. I'll just post in a year. If I can go that long in a
Right.
year. Because I was such like a fiend. You know
Oh,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I was always
Yeah.
on it looking at
Well,
whatever and
you're
I
going out to get
understood
the
that.
photos. You wanted to get the likes. You wanted
Yeah.
other people to connect with you.
Like as soon as I caught I remember I caught like a 38-inch redfish with my dad, right? And I gave 2 shits about the redfish, and it was all about, I was like, hold the fish this way, hold the fish that way, do this, do that. And he released it, and I'm like, I'm such a dick.
Right.
Like, why am I even, like, I'm not even a
Right,
captain, like,
right.
why do I care? You know, because I had a couple companies giving me free stuff at the time,
Right.
and it was stressing me out. So then I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
So then like a year went by, and I was like, I don't know why I can't talk myself into posting. I was like, I'll post on my birthday. I'll post on my
I
birthday.
have to. It's my
Yeah.
birthday.
My birthday came, and I was like,
Eh,
and the whole time, me and him were grinding away, starting this company,
Right,
getting Live Water Sports where it needs to be,
Right,
and
right.
creating like that lifestyle of a brand, and that's like our baby. So and I said on New Year's 2019, I was like, all right, it's enough's enough. We have all these clients, we have all these partners, captains we work with. Like I should post something and like
Right. Right.
do
Come
something.
back to life.
New Year's came, and I was like, oh, I just can't do it now. So now it's like, what is tomorrow the 1st?
Yeah.
No, Friday, your birthday. And I said on New Year's, I'll give it 1 more month. February 1st I'll post, and I'll do like a whole big stupid thing, and
We'll see what happens.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that's Friday, so we'll actually see what happens. But
And see, the funny thing about like his whole thought process, even like I share the same thing is with all these like influencers and just people that say social media, especially millennials, everyone's so caught up in posting and putting on the facade of living a good life.
Yep.
But we truly try every day to like live the most like authentic life possible.
Right. Right.
And we're very fortunate we get to work with companies that allow us to do so. But that's why we don't seek the favor. We're just happy with ourselves of like,
it like freaks out our clients. They're
Yeah.
like, why don't you guys have like a show or do a
Right.
YouTube channel?
That's
or
one of
this or
our,
that? And I'm like, I don't have time or the mental capacity.
Yeah, we're
to do
just
that.
happy
Like
like
you're building their brands. It's hard to have your own personal brand
You know,
too. That comes
like-
with that.
And that's the thing, like I'm not a cap, like we're not
Right.
captains, we're not mate, like I was a mate like when I graduated just because I needed money, you know,
Right.
I worked and made on boats and get my ass kicked and it was rough and,
Right.
but I just don't like, all these captains that you guys partner with, like, Mike Goodwine, Steve Bear, those are fishy, say mofos.
Yeah.
But they're the real deal, you know what I mean? Like it's their livelihood, it's what they live for, you know?
Right. They put in that time. They
Yeah.
put in the sweat equity.
Yeah.
They built their own personal brands.
Exactly.
You've
So
done a
I
very,
definitely-
very good job at it, and there's a difference there than a media group as well.
Yeah.
There's a difference between, and that you've been saying, there's a difference between a fishing guide who people need to want to go fishing with this guy.
yeah,
Where you guys have a portfolio of work. It's like, let these other companies do our talking. It's like, here, we've worked with these guys, these guys, these guys, these guys. Here's some content. Like, that's us, but you're never even gonna see us. Like, you know, it's like it's funny. I mean, even earlier today, I was looking at your website. I'm like, these guys, like, they're the quality of what they have on here is beautiful. And then Ty's like, it's such a simple website. And I think that speaks
It's really
into
just
what
a fancy
you're saying here.
Dropbox for us.
That's what it
That's all
seems
it
like.
is.
Yeah,
It has
it's just
unlimited
like
storage for our sharing info.
it's just like, oh wow, like, but now hearing that from you, it makes sense of like, oh yeah, no, like, this is us, but look at our work. We don't want you to focus on 7 C's Media Group. Like, it's like this thing. It's like, no, we want to produce this content.
And even outside the fishing industry or the outdoor industry, I mean, we have a pretty cool opportunity with like a national gun brand. I know nothing about guns. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about guns. Just we get along because we're not really bullshitters.
Right.
You know, like if we don't understand something, I'll tell you, hey, I don't understand this. Give me a week and I'll be an expert on it.
Right.
And we'll figure it out. You know what I mean? And it was the same thing with photography. I mean, Chestnut, when we first started with the paddleboard thing, he wanted to upgrade his Mark III to a Mark IV. And I said, I don't know anything about fancy cameras, but if we're going to do this,